member of TRB's Standing Committee on Access Management and ASHTO's Committee on Traffic Engineering. He's going to share with us from the perspective of the state traffic engineer how Tennessee delivers and maintains modern roadways by implementing access management principles and practices with a holistic approach encompassing planning, design, and operations. Now, Jason once spent a year as a minister at a small New England church. So when the basket is passed later, remember that he only has one free drink ticket for tonight.
That's good. Oh, that'll work. Got that figured out. All right, well, this is my first time in, I got us in here. I went for this, not the other. First time in Wisconsin, and I was looking out the window in the plane, and I was like, farms and cow pastures, and I was like, this is so much better than flying into D.C. or some other boring capital city, that's all gray and concrete, and I was getting really giddy, and then the plane starts to land in a cow pasture. I mean, it's actually, I thought I was landing, in a farm somewhere, but that's the airport. And so I text my wife, I'm here safe, and it's great, it's beautiful, it's sunny, and I was like, I hope it smells good too. So I walk out the airport doors, and I take a deep breath, and I'm like, it smells like cow manure. And then I get into the hotel shuttle with this convention of folks that are manure spreaders, and I found out about that. They have this big equipment that spreads manure, and so this is just a great place, minus all the manure, and but anyway, got into Madison, beautiful, everybody's exercising, and it's just gorgeous. So great to be in Madison. The last city when we had this in was Seattle, and it actually was a miracle. It was a beautiful day in Seattle, sun. You could see all the mountain ranges and everything, so it was great. So I'm glad to be here, thankful to be presenting. I've been giving some kind of presentations throughout my time on the committee and just kind of status on Tennessee, because Tennessee is one of those states where we're kind of, in many ways, we follow other states and we see what they've done good and what they've done bad, and then eventually, after every state has tried it, we try it. And so we're trying access management. So I did my homework, and before you dig into an NCHRP, my advice is drink lots of coffee. And that's typically what I do before I dig into one, NCHRP 548 especially. But it says this, access management is most effective when it is implemented at the system level. And you see in bold, planning, designing, operating the highway system. Who does that? A DOT, and they do all three of those. So I had, a lot of things going for me there. So I started looking around at TDOT, and I was like, I know so-and-so in planning, and I know so-and-so in design, I know so-and-so, I'm in operations, but anyway, I was like, so I know me, and so I was like, we could all work together, me and my split personality, and so then I hooked up with this guy named Phil, and he said, Jason, before you do anything, you better make sure you have it in law, because you can't tell the public what to do, you can make policies and design. I was like, okay. So I did some research, and we had this code which said basically driveways can damage roads, therefore the commissioner has authority to regulate the construction of driveways on state routes. I was like, that's enough. And then I found we had a regulation or rule that kind of expanded that idea. So I was like, man, we've got this. I mean, I can do wonders. So anyway, so the big thing with access management, which everybody knows in this room, is the benefits in safety, mobility, and economic vitality. And you can read that in the other, it's the same one, right? Yeah, it's a really long one, with lots of coffee. So implementing in Tennessee, and I feel I said, the only way to do this, I've got to do this. It's so political. Everything's so political here. Baby steps. So we started actually, we didn't start. There was some research done, and there was a report, and I think it was 2006. We had a consultant kind of draft up kind of some proposed changes to the regs, but it never went anywhere. And so in 2016, I stood before a bunch of representatives and senators, and they just asked me one question, which I won't tell you what it was, but we got it passed. We got the update through, and it wasn't robust. It was a modest improvement to the regs, a very much needed improvement. But other things that have been happening too was we had a TDOT 25-year long-range plan. We had all kinds of access management language in there. They wanted a manual. They wanted a traffic impact study guide developed. So they had a lot of short-term things that they wanted. Also knew the director of planning, and I talked with her, sidebar, and we had a lot of things working together in that 25-year long-range plan. Also, corridor management agreement. Planning was kind of taking the lead on that, and that's actually where I met Phil Demosthenes, and that was on State Route 109. It was completed in 2016. Access management research for the Development Agency policy, that was completed in 2017 with University of Tennessee. We were working with them. I was using somebody else's money, planning. I keep using their money. But we have a great relationship. Integrate best access practices. This is what we're kind of doing now by combining the holistic approach, planning, design, and operations, which started in 2018 this year. It's going to be kind of working name as Highway System Access Manual. We'll go into that later. The other thing too that we've been doing is just kind of ongoing training of operations staff, and this is just kind of homegrown, but basically getting folks together. The region traffic engineers, we have 4 regions, and they all 4 permit across the state, and they're all definitely involved hands-on with working with developers, reviewing traffic impact studies, and they have been kind of educating their own people, and we have been working with them. And the next step too is last, bullet 7, comprehensive update to the state entrance rules. This is kind of what I wanted to do originally, but this is going to be basically following along after our manual is developed to actually go back and revisit the 2016 update and do a more robust and do a lot more of the stuff that I really wanted in the first update that was just too ambitious at the time. So anyway, Tennessee's strategy was to start kind of with the rules, because our rules were a little old, and the rules first, planning is kind of like dominoes. It got kind of the ball rolling, planning, and they started putting money in research, and then also I got design staff on board to basically work with me on updating standard drawings, design criteria, because I want it to be, I don't want to demand something from the public and from land developers that we're not willing to do ourselves. So I wanted it all to be kind of very holistic. So 1974, first state highway entrance rules. So they were old. Actually, they're probably older than that. But what were you doing in 1974? I was chillaxing. Some of you were probably dating in college, but I was chillaxing and not worried about access management at all. But now I am. So anyway, but the rules, and you'll see, you like little parentheses at the very end, new, revised. So the revised things, there wasn't much in the regulations. They had corner clearance, they knew what that was, and increased frontage requirements. Okay, so minimal stuff. And so we've added traffic impact study requirements, we've added median opening spacing, engineering exceptions, anything that's in law or regs, you got to have some way around it. You got to have some flexibility. So that's the appeals process, which is also very interesting. And coordination with locals. So we wanted to work together with local governments. Like, hey, if you don't allow this in your land use or whatever, we don't want to approve a driveway. Because sometimes we'd have developers come to us and then kind of push on the locals to allow this driveway. We don't want to have those fights or those lawsuits. So we work with locals, and any kind of change in use would justify a new permit. And also the other kind of cool thing too was we didn't write it in really harsh legally kind of language. We actually had a manual, and I asked legal, like, can we do this? And they were like, well, there's other agencies that have done this, but basically we stuck the manual in as an appendix into our regulation. So maybe not as strong as other things in court, but it seemed to be enough for what we wanted to accomplish. So anyway, Long Range Planning has been just an awesome partner. They have supported all of this, and we've kind of had meetings since the beginning. I joined TDOT toward the end of 2013, so we kind of really got started in 2014 with a lot of this. And some of this I mentioned earlier. The corridor management agreement, again, that was great. We want to kind of incorporate that into the regulation to say, hey, this corridor has a corridor agreement. You've got to kind of follow these criteria that are established by the agreement. There's a lot of things in the back of my head I want to have actually in the regs, so that it makes these corridor agreements stronger than just an agreement signed by a bunch of folks that don't permit drives. And let's see. The report was concluded in 2017. This was great. Reviewed states with mature programs. We looked at everybody and kind of just what's working, what's not. Then we also the new AMM and AMAG. This was great too. I threw those at UT, and I was like, dig into these two, because while you're looking at other states, look at these latest and greatest. We had a lot of great opportunities because we had buy-in from other divisions, and we also had all this newly released information and criteria on access management. So it's like so many things coming together all at once. And Long Range Planning, again, funding everything that we do, which is great. This was the final report on SR 109. This was just kind of the access management report. And also the SR 109 study, which Phil has talked about before in the past, that he was involved with, was a very extensive study. And we're using a lot of the information from that study because we had so much buy-in and agreement from the public and from elected officials. We thought, hey, this is going to be also good to kind of incorporate into the Highway System Access Manual that we're working on. So talking about the Highway System Access Manual, which is kind of our holistic approach of getting everybody at TDOT involved and working together. We wanted to look at, again, both planning, design, and operations, and how access management looks in each of those functional groups. And also, again, initial statewide training. Training is going to be important. We're probably going to pay for somebody to do the training. But do it statewide and do it for everybody, designers especially, because they really haven't had a lot of guidance involving driveways and involving access management. And so we want buy-in across the board, also with our right-of-way folks and also permitting. And then finalize the rule update. Ultimately, the goal of once we have the access manual is to revisit the regs and kind of across the board, not only with TDOT policy, but also in regulation, have very transparent and consistent approach statewide for access management. And some of the things that we're looking at, first of all, the demand, all modes. And you'll see this talked about in the new Green Book that's coming out, hitting the streets in December. Early fall is what I've been told, potentially. When you're looking at access management and meeting that demand,
looking at planning, design, and operations. The things that we're looking at: multimodal project scoping, model land use strategies, corridor agreements, intersection control evaluation, which is a hot topic lately. For design, context-based criteria, which is going to show up in the Green Book, which is going to affect a lot of our standard drawings at TDOT and kind of how we approach design at TDOT. Alternate intersection design, spacing, driveway geometrics, turn lane geometrics, all of that. The operations side, access regulations, again, updating those. Permit procedures, we want an online permitting system. I'm jealous of Iowa. Where's Iowa? Willie? He's gone. He left. Didn't even listen. Well, they're all similar. Anyway, and then access maintenance. All right, so these three areas, and I just want to mention some of these real quick, just a little bit deeper dive. The model land development regulations is going to have multiple components: comprehensive plan, zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations. The comprehensive plan serves as local policy guide for the development growth. All of this is really to just kind of assist the locals, communicate, educate, and get everybody on the same page, because we have a lot of locals in Tennessee that just kind of follow. TDOT has a guide for this, so just use that instead of us developing something. So we wanted to kind of get something out there that was really good. So if they wanted to use it, great. If they don't want to use it, maybe they have something else that they're already using that works well for them and has an access focus. Again, zoning ordinances, control of land use, building setbacks, all that information. Subdivision regulations, touching on those, you can't ignore them. We have subdivisions sometimes where they want to do like half the lots have an internal street and the other half have direct access, to the divided highway or whatever. So some of those things we just want to kind of like, no, this is how you do this, and this is how you do it right. And again, intersection control evaluation. We wanted to really look at a kind of a high level, the R cuts, the J cuts. We want, or J turns, we want those to be considered. And we don't want the developers to come in and say, hey, we got to have our traditional signal, on this 4-lane divided highway. No, we're going to look at, if you don't have any left turns, doing an R cut or doing something like that, and kind of help fund that improvement. So we don't just, all the millions of dollars that we spent on this bypass are now wasted. Now we're not getting 20 years out of this road, we're getting 5. So we want to have those kind of talks and that be incorporated into their traffic impact studies so that they're looking, using our spreadsheet or George's, if I steal that one, using using that tool to evaluate, what intersection type works here at this location. And George's, which is kind of neat, also has kind of a multimodal component in their spreadsheet tool for ICE. So you're getting that kind of, is this good for PEDs also? And again, the goals of ICE: improve the way people move across access connections, eliminate, relocate, or modify conflict points, just really improve the process and be transparent. So anybody can plug these numbers in and get the same result. The new Green Book, 7th edition, this was kind of some of this context classification. This is the design part, basically combining functional class, context class, and multimodal needs. This is found in the new Green Book and also in NCHRP Report 855. And it's kind of an expanded, of our functional classification system, expanding it to really look at the context class. And also at the same time, again, incorporating some of the latest criteria from the access management resources that are available. We also have our research and the work that's being done now by our consultant. In the NCHRP 855, which was just released, I think, downloadable last month in June. I love this chart. This is the same chart that's in the new Green Book. I've got a copy of it because Jeff Jones, he's our deputy kind deputy chief engineer, and he worked, kind of led that effort with the new update. And so I've kind of got this. They flipped the y-axis. I think on the green book it's local starts first, and it goes down to principal freeway. But anyway, you can see down at the legend below, high ped, high bike, high car, which is served the most is what's bold. And you'll see like urban core all the way to the far. Your right is ped. So it's really good to kind of show for the different context classes what users and their demands that are being met for the different functional classifications. So this is going to reshape, I think, how we design and how we do permitting on the operations side. And also have, again, Jeff Jones, is at TDOT, so I've already got buy-in from him, so it's great. And then ultimately, the operations side, need versus want. You always, when you're involved at all in permitting, the developers, they sometimes direct access isn't always best, even for developers. Sometimes the direct access is overrated on a facility that nobody can turn left in due to congestion and things like that. So having those conversations, what's a need, what's a want, what works best, it's really tough. And and I just came from a little while ago a presentation in one of the other rooms about what is reasonable access. It really depends. It's really a lot of times site specific and needs of circulation for that development. So that's the best way to kind of approach reasonable access is site by site. And so anyway, comprehensive update to the statewide driveway regs, which is mentioned enough. Statewide training, deployment of an online permitting system like Iowa. And that's for the locals to see it, the developer to see it, because sometimes we see different things. But it's like, this is what we looked at. This was the site plan that we permitted, and it was the same one that the locals permitted. So it's kind of, they could, everything from the developer can be looked at by both sides. And so we wanted that transparency. And the local governments, when we had kind of a statewide workshop, that's what they wanted. If you could do a permitting process and we could go in there and see what you're looking at and when you got it, like, did you receive this a year ago? So just some accountability, transparency is kind of what we were shooting for on the online permitting process. And again, with the ICE intersection control evaluation, to kind of rank, how are we going to mitigate this driveway and the trips, and what kind of intersection type will work best here and still get our efficiency and safety and kind of meet our needs in that arena. And so all that we're doing, I always look back at 2016. We just did kind of a minor update, which I would say it looks pretty major to most folks in Tennessee and our permitting staff. I mean, we're requiring traffic impact studies. Amazing that we're just now doing that in 2016. But as far as driveway exceptions, like you can see, 8 were approved of the 9 in 2016, and all approved in 2017. Why that's so high is because we have in the regulation that they can't go to the exceptions panel unless they are in agreement, or the region permitting staff is in agreement with their plan. Like, they can't just sidestep or jump over the region traffic engineer who's permitting. They have to actually come to a consensus. And I was like, this would be the best thing if the developers and the region traffic engineers can work together. And there's pressure on both sides politically, but ultimately, I see right in, right outs, and I see driveways being moved away from the intersection. And these exceptions, maybe they can't get 200 feet. Maybe they get 195. And it's like, that is great. Finally, they're working together instead of jumping over each other or whatever, playing that game. So 2017 permits, I looked At that, we had like commercial 292 statewide, residential 520. The exceptions just make up 1% of that. And again, Nashville, Memphis, Morristown, Chattanooga, they do their own permitting within the city limits. So those are not included in that. But you'll see kind of crazy stuff like that that's now happening with where that would have been. And I'm telling you, they wanted a full access right near that stop bar on the top. That's now just a one-way in. I mean, it's a big change happening in Tennessee. And you'll just see pictures. I got these from guys. I just said, send me something for this presentation. This is stuff going on right now. And I met with the senator on this one. I'm done, by the way. Met with the senator on this one and the whole residential community that did not want this gas station to go in. They did not want the gas station. So they're blaming us for allowing the gas station to come here, even though it was zoned commercial. So anyway, so we met on site, and they were TDOT was getting bashed like you wouldn't believe. And the senator actually sided with TDOT because we can't, and like everybody knows in this room, we can't deny access rights because they were wanting us to basically say you cannot have any driveways because it is not safe or whatever. And I was like, man, sorry, there's a misunderstanding. We don't deny access. We regulate it. Like, instead of here, it's going to go here, and it's going to be a right in, right out. And they were just like all upset that we couldn't just shut the gas station down as they're actually building the gas station, because we did allow the permit to go through. So anyway, they're suing the gas station because they actually put the drive where we wanted it, which was as far as we could probably get it from the intersection. And they want it to be closer. And I'm like, well, that's not safe. So anyway, it was a very fun day, but it was nice that a state senator was on our side. And I'm telling you, that's like gold. That's a good day. I mean, that's a good day. So I was like, this is great. So anyway, that's all I got. And yep, there's some stuff. And I want to give like special thanks to even Phil's there and Marshall, Gresham. Like, I've had a lot of help, a lot of support, a lot of keep it going, keep doing good work. So any questions? I just got lucky because we had a code and we had rules and I could play with it. I got free money from planning and got some support. So I just got lucky. Right place, right time. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, any questions? Yeah, I got to come back here and repeat your question. Any questions? Yes.
What happens when you're retrofitting previous 5-lane arterial with medians? Has that process changed with the adoption of the new policy documents?
No. So that's that repeat question. So yes, so we have like a 5-lane roadway comes in. Like, what happens? Do the regs, what's happening there? There's no guidance right now. I found out that the design manual actually pointed to the regulation on driveways, which I didn't want to happen because we weren't ready for that, because we were going to start having to project costs were going to explode rapidly, like not in a controlled way, and I was going to lose a lot of buy-in. So I was like, because there was basically no design policy for driveways at all in the state. They were just kind of using this old regulation that was like, have the driveways 30 feet from the intersection. So it was very antiquated. So I was like, okay, maybe too big of a jump for the designers. So this highway access manual is actually going to kind of give them a design policy for driveways, and then we're going to kind of update the reg based on what I can figure out works for TDOT and hopefully for the public and for developers. But right now, I will say Tennessee, I mean, we're behind other states and like we try things last, but we still do like purchase access rights, and we still try to push driveways because we just know, if you stick the driveway 30 feet from the stop bar, you're going to have crashes. You're going to have bad things happen. So we've figured that out on our own. And so we've moved, so if we come in with the 5-lane, we like, okay, we're buying like 500 feet this way. So that is happening, but we can do a lot better, and I think we will do a lot better. So, all right. Thank you so much.